Hi everybody, this is Darrell Lonnie with Western Oregon head men's basketball coach Craig Stanger. We're going to start our conversation today with the rankings. I'm not sure a lot of people understand, maybe myself included, Craig, how the regional rankings are put together. We keep stressing on the air, and we've talked a little bit on Wolves Weekly about regional rankings, the importance of them being that at the end of the season, whoever's number one gets to host the playoffs, etc. So these are not just rankings that we threw out during the season that become unimportant at the end of the year. These are very important. So who is in the group that decides who our top 8 is every week, and take us through the procedure, how this works.
Might have to keep it a secret as to who's on that committee. That's an interesting situation. No, it is very important. All of the conference champions, and in our region we have 3 conferences, and all the conference champions receive an automatic entry into the rankings, and so that leaves 5 at large. Because only the top 8 in the region advance and get into the national tournament. So there are 5 at-large positions outside of those 3 conference champions. And usually those conference champions are going to be ranked in that, somewhere in there anyway, because they're winning games. But sure. That's how it's configured. So definitely from week to week it's very important who's beating who and whatnot, and especially the strength of schedule between the conferences is extremely important. And that's why in playing preseason games early against the California Collegiate Conference or the Pac-West Conference, as a group, if we do very well as a GNAC group, that really helps us in our strength of schedule and enables us to get 3 or possibly even 4 teams into the national tournament.
Now you have 2 of them right at the top that's, as we speak, Seattle Pacific being number 1, Western Washington 2, Central Washington 7, and Alaska Anchorage 9. So 4 of your teams in your league in the top 9, which is very good. And if things ended like this, Seattle Pacific then in turn would host. Let's carry this a step further. Seattle Pacific won close game against Western, great game, Thursday night, won by 2 points and so forth and so on. So they're kind of in command right now, aren't they? They're 10-1. Your next best team, the closest team, has 3 losses. That's Central. Western has 4 losses. So they've got an edge now.
They do, and I'm assuming they'll probably be able to finish out, especially with one of their big post players now coming back. They should be able to hold on to that spot, but you never know. They've got another tough game or 2 to finish up, and it'll be interesting to come down. But with the 2-game lead, pretty good chance. The only thing that may happen is if they happen to lose, there's the possibility of Cal Poly Pomona or one of the California collegiate teams leapfrogging Western Washington and getting the top spot.
Going back to what you're talking about with the rankings, Craig, is there fairly equal distribution of those who have votes in this? In other words, do you ever get into a situation where one conference is saying, this isn't fair, you got too many guys voting for GNAC teams and that type of thing? Or is it pretty equal?
No, it's actually, it's equal. There are 2 representatives from each conference, okay. So there are 6 on the panel, and there really isn't any voting. It's more just an interpretation of data.
Okay.
It's very, very objective, maybe almost to a fault. Unlike the Division I's where maybe they sit and evaluate some bubble teams, as it were, and really look at how they've been playing the last 10 games, things like that. We don't have that. It's just strictly by the numbers on how you did against regional D2 opponents, how you did in your conference, and look at that statistical data. And then if it does get down close, then they look at common opponents and opponents winning percentage and some other really obscure statistical data to decide. So it doesn't really, the nice thing is you don't have that lobbying for someone to vote one way or another. But on the other hand, just purely looking at the statistics, sometimes you do lose out on that. Well, this team's been playing really well the last 10 games and the other team hasn't. You don't have that.
Right. Hey, that's interesting. I think it's very interesting stuff. All right, talk about your team. 2 games last week. Anchorage, very good team, came in Thursday, followed by Fairbanks on Saturday. Start with Anchorage.
Well, I think every team's good in this conference, and that's what people are seeing, and that's what our young guys are experiencing, and I would throw us in that mix. I mean, we've stumbled recently and we've lost some close games, but we're a good team as well. And Anchorage had something to prove. We had beaten them up there, and they came out and shot the ball extremely well. Used an offensive scheme that we had not seen them use all year, and it worked well for them. Our guys still hung right in there, even though Anchorage was shooting at a phenomenal clip. So were we, and we were right there with them and had an opportunity, but it just, in the end, they had too much firepower. We were not able to get enough consistent stops, particularly down the stretch, and they were able to prevail.
Saturday, your game turns around completely. You have a great first 12 minutes. You're up 18, and the game turns around. How did all that happen? What happened?
Well, if we knew exactly how it all turned around, maybe we wouldn't be talking about it. But the players are just good, and you cannot let up, and that's one of the things we're learning as a team. We're maturing as a team. What you did 5 minutes ago is not going to guarantee you success 5 minutes later, and you've got to sustain that level of consistency. And they're a very good basketball team. We beat them up there, even though their record's not very good. We beat them up there with their two leading scorers being virtually non-existent, and we only won by about 10 or 11 up there. Maybe it was 13. As I said, with those two players really being non-factors. Well, down here they were factors, and they shoot the ball extremely well, both Jenkins and Mo. They can score from anywhere, and they demonstrated that. And once they got on a roll, it was very difficult to stop them. And then we tried to force the issue and keep up with them, rather than try to get things set on defense. And if our shots were falling in the second half, everything would have worked out fine. But that's part of the process that we as a young team need to continue to develop and learn, is that you have to have that consistency mentally and to keep focused and keep working. And even then, guys are going to make shots. So how are you going to deal with that? And we struggled there.
Talk about this week on the road. Last two road games of the year, Billings and then Northwest Nazarene.
Not particularly the places you want to go after having struggled and lost 4 in a row. Billings is a very good basketball team. We saw that when they came here. They're very good at home. They have players in every position. And NNU, again, they're struggling a little bit right now, but they have a lot of offensive firepower, as they proved when they faced us here. And so they're going to be two very, very tough opponents to deal with on the road. I guess the good thing we have going for us is we started out conference 0-4 and had to go to Alaska, and that's where we found our first 2 wins. So maybe this is a good omen that we're going to a tough place to have to find a way to turn things around and finish it up. So.
Last question. We're running out of time, they tell me. This is a tough time to coach, isn't it? Your team has lost some goals. You're out of the race and so forth. A lot of teams go south at this time of the year. So what do you do, Craig? How do you work against that to keep your guys charging to the finish line, even though the goals are not out there anymore?
Well, it's true. We've not achieved some of the goals that we had set, but there are still other goals that we have, and we want to finish the season strong on a positive note, not just for our seniors, but also to set the tone for next season and to establish ourselves. There's still a lot of pride on the line, and where we can finish. We can finish higher than we were picked, and that's our goal, because we feel we're a better team than that, and that's what we want to go out and prove.
Head coach Craig Stanger, this is Darrell Lonnie.